Oh, how interesting. Ooh. Ah. Hmm. I see. Looks like you need some help. Let me help you.
Now, as you may know, healthcare doesn't come cheap, which means you are now going to have to repay us with involuntary work at the company. Don't worry, we have great benefits, such as dental and vision care. Now that you have signed our company mandated contract in blood, you are now legally binded to serve with us indefinitely, or until your own timely death. Now, take your tool and begin your work in liberating the competition's cargo holds. Oh, what do we do, you may ask? Well, we have an acronym that helps you in that matter. See, we are a simple shipping enterprise of sorts that strategically relocates goods and items from one place or another into the company's cargo holds for economic leverage in the market at a going rate. Huh, that's a bit familiar. Anyhow, as you may know, there's an ongoing war going on in the world of Foxhole, and there's always profit to be made. The company has a type of laissez-faire economic practice on the high seas, always looking for the best way to achieve profit quotas from the board of directors at any means. Some of our competitors might want to discourage us with weapons and the Geneva Convention, but we have bigger guns and no moral compass. Let's begin this thrilling adventure into the world of Foxhole, Somalian Enterprise Edition. We first start in a faction hub that I can only characterize as the same as being stranded in a random Costco, with no one around for miles and so many paths to choose from. After some incoherent wandering, we finally find the teleporter and get into the real world of Foxhole. Fortunately for me, I found a 96-year-old geriatric man attempting to convince the local sea life into joining his prostitution ring on his small boat. After taking his boat keys away while he wasn't looking, I proceeded to borrow his boat while he was persuading an Atlantic tuna in the bushes nearby, giving me a real great first impression on the local population. I now owned a boat for the company, and new routes for acquisition suddenly opened up on the high seas. But first, dear viewer, let me explain some common business practice. When the company does not supervise the employees and has a very vague company task for the employees to do, on top of not paying me enough to actually care about the work I do, creates the type of work atmosphere that grows discontent within the lower echelon of the company workforce. That is why when I was given the opportunity to liberate myself from the corporate greed I had experienced so far, I decided to take it. From there on, a newfound feeling came over me while riding across the scenic waves of the ocean. All of my senses of the worldly dilemmas I've had experienced so far, or to be specific, land-based issues such as working for a measly wage to afford housing, were completely gone on the high seas, leading me to come across the most important realization I've had so far. This came to me when I found a special tool aboard the boat called the wrench. Any locked door suddenly became unlocked in a matter of seconds, including the bulkheads of multi-million-dollar vessels. This allowed me to do anything I ever wanted. I did not need to pay rent anymore. I had a boat. I did not need to worry about utilities, for I had the sea to take care for me. I did not need to attend any more company meetings anymore. I did not need to talk to any higher-ups at the company anymore at company meetings, for I was alone on a boat, with only my pet Brazilian to keep me company. Okay, that last one wasn't positive to say, but hey, at least it can't get any worse, right? I was a free man that had no more obligation to serve the company and its interest anymore. I would create my own enterprise and reap the rewards instead of giving it to those evil decrepit bastards at the company headquarters. I planned to grow the company entirely on my own using a grassroots business model in the process, enacting my right to pursue my own capitalistic needs. I will become a powerhouse of a company, and I will conquer the continent through aggressive marketing of my services. But first, dear viewer, you need some context of the game I'm currently playing. See, with the world of Foxhole being in a constant state of combat between the Colonials and the Warden factions, their lore essentially boils down to this. Wardens are femboys and the Colonials are furries. Meow. Both sides are constantly striving to achieve top-rated karma by destroying each other with weapons of mass destruction. There are no good guys. Thus, means my company making a profit off of repossession of both sides' assets, then selling to the highest bidder, was morally okay and justifiable. We were essentially in World War I, and I was role-playing a Somalian Robin Hood. But in this case, we were not redistributing wealth from the rich to the poor, but instead from one egomaniac to another with a fee attached, of course. Now, let me get back to what I was originally saying. Oh, what's that? Were you expecting me to relieve my newly hired crew after I left the old company? Well, someone has to do the dirty work, and it won't be me. Besides, the old company has already signed the death warrants of anyone who conspired with me, making staying with me the only option available. The high seas were harsh, but the bounty of loot was unlimited. With my fellow crew that I persuaded, we set out to repurpose old company properties for our own capital gains. The plan was perfect. We would go to old company assets and just simply take them from under their noses. They would never know, as they would think we would be somewhere else, thus creating the perfect plan without any issues. The pickings were great. Ship after ship we found and liberated from the old company ports and hiding spots they initially told us about. Our former coworkers were simply letting us grab the ships without any resistance, as they thought we were still hired under the company, without knowing that we actually were fired quite earlier in the day. No ship was safe for my crew and my materialistic greed to acquire them. Ship after ship were found and collected. I brought them back to our secret storage location, evading local authorities as to not draw attention to ourselves. So I might have been a bit overzealous in my actual experience in the game so far. See, what I was doing most of the time was quite boring. Don't get me wrong, some parts of it was absolutely bonkers, but most of it was just this. See what I mean? This is the type of stuff that makes people who absolutely love using Microsoft Excel program extremely horny. So I just had to spice things up a bit in the story department. Besides, you already know that war was written by the victors, and oh boy, did I win in the satire department with this one. Anyhow, back to the video. After some time, we had a large fleet of ships at our disposal. We had about 5 landing craft, 2 tankers, 3 speedboats, and 1 excavator. But there was an issue that we had forgotten to address. We do not have enough manpower to operate all of our stuff. We only had a crew of 3 at our hands. A major miscalculation on the intern's part, but don't worry, he was relieved of his duty to the company, with a beneficial severance package bringing the crew down to only 2 members and a dead corpse that now resides below deck. After that blunder, we brainstormed for days in an attempt to come up with a solution, much like college students on finals week attempting to avoid their eventual lifelong career in the fast food industry. Eureka! The solution that I found was quite simple. We only had to enlarge our workforce by using any means possible, keeping all of our products safe. We would have to offer unimaginable contracts that were irresistible to even the common man, such as healthcare and paid time off. I know, it's a bit insane of idea, but hear me out. We had no other choice, as local authorities were beginning to search for their missing assets, and I wanted to stay away from them. We did not post an online listing for the position, as it would have gotten us too much unwanted attention. Also, we had no internet access while stuck on the ocean. You can thank the game devs for that one. So we had to be discreet about this, evading the local authorities and only addressing the finest criminals about our lucrative employment opportunity. Because the only con in being an ex-con is no one knows their name, unless they have a bounty, which would then expose them. Didn't think that one through, did I? Alright then, so all we have to do is find some real schmucks instead. Eventually, we found a perfect gang of roaming thugs, high off their own gasoline. I was surprised when one of them seemed to be interested in the job offer. It did not take much effort to convince the rest of the thugs to join our crew, since they only wanted pictures of a small Hispanic man that we had found earlier aboard a warden ship as compensation. This was the perfect acquisition, as the former gang of thugs, now employees, had their own gunboat already at their disposal and only wanted fuel as an additional compensation, severely increasing our company's lethality on the high seas. With this at our disposal, we could finally fight back against the group of barbarians the old company kept sending at us. We were truly a force to be reckoned with. Nothing was going to be able to stop us. But I had made a fatal flaw in this plan. As I was collecting a ship for the fleet, the analyst that I hired sent me a concerning message in a bottle that eventually floated to me using the power of shellfish. The message inside had concerning information on the discovery he made. The new employees we had just hired guzzled all the fuel aboard the stored ships and then guzzled all the fuel from the stockpiles we had previously acquired until there was no more. In a fit of hallucinogenic rage, they accidentally burnt themselves aboard those ships, destroying themselves in the process. Now, in my defense, I never knew any of this until after I was done collecting a new ship for the fleet. I was stranded and alone on the high seas for days until one of my faithful original crewmates named Conrad came back for me. Technically speaking, this is what I get as a businessman for not allowing my employees access to the company credit card when they requested to buy fuel for their bodies. In my defense, there was a war going on and apparently, junkies cannot be trusted, forcing me to relieve this new crew and reconsider my alternatives with the former crew. We had to make a profit soon, as I had done a bad series of stock investments and the IRS was going to collect. I could not be late on those payments again, as the IRS can and will deliver you pain that is so terrible and unending that even a self-lobotomy with a bullet cannot ease the suffering of.
Who the hell's that?
Open the door!
Who is it?
This is the IRS. Open the door.
The IRS? No, I don't want any cookies today.
There's no old ladies living here.
That's it. Bust down the door.
Hey, you, stop!
Oh, shit.
Get him. Get back
Stop
over
him.
here.
Hold him down. Get the anal probing device. Need to access this Bitcoin.
Me and my crew became desperate, forcing us to go into much more dangerous areas to make a profit. But this was our own downfall, as we were quickly soon discovered by the local warden femboy authorities. They chased us into the open ocean for hours on end, not wanting to accept my bribes of money and shouting they wanted my boy meat instead. We had a plan to split up and try to lose them, but I had made a fatal mistake. I had forgotten both to bring enough fuel or a gun on this trip, leading me to realize my chances were near zero in surviving this attack, as my fuel was slowly reaching zero on the fuel gauge. The grim realization of being captured soon came about, so I did what any man would do when confronted by a group of savages with guns. I tried pleading for my life by offering someone else's life instead, like the one of my crewmate. That failed miserably, and they disabled my boat in the process. In my triumphant last stand, I tried to intimidate them into fearing the holy smite of Wakambe, the god of the Somalian people, and what would happen if they tried to hurt me. This failed miserably, resulting in me being shot and knocked unconscious. I woke up in the most horrible room possible. It was covered in one-piece merchandise and other anime degeneracy, with no windows and only one light that came from the ceiling. My hands were chained to the chair I was sitting in. While captured by the wardens, I was put under various forms of unconditional torture, hours on end, as they tried extracting every bit of information from me, insisting that I was a little sussy baka boy kisser that liked to kiss boys. I resisted, but my pride was utterly destroyed. This was definitely a form of psychological warfare that even the gods never knew existed. My incarceration lasted for days, until the wardens traded me like a horrible basketball player to the colonials for my alleged crimes against humanity. The colonials had other intentions with me than an execution, something much worse that no human should ever endure. They sent me to France to fight on the front lines. I was knee-deep in the land of baguettes and foul, cheesy odors. Fortunately for me, my only surviving crewmate was sent here as well, while the rest were tried and executed for their crimes against the state, making us both endure living hell that is known as the French countryside together. With proper weapons in our hands, we had discovered that microchips were implanted in our necks, stopping us from escaping the colonials before completing our sentence, without having our heads explode, forcing us to fight as conscripted convicts on the front lines. Little that the French knew, when backed into a corner, I became as feral as a 7-Eleven crackhead with $20 worth of fermented mayo in my pockets, quadrupling my lethality in combat. I was an actual death machine. No men that crossed paths before me stood a chance at living. With this newfound purpose of battle, I fully immersed myself into the battlefield, forging bonds stronger than the mightiest steel on the front lines with my battle brothers. Even though the horrible colonial leaders sent these men into battle, they were my brothers in arms and in combat, willing to sacrifice for each other no matter what the cost. Taking out the wardens was for the greater good, and we all understood this. Even if they pleaded, we surrender with a white flag, obviously deployed to lower our guards so that we could be captured as sex slaves later on. The tides of battle were constantly changing. At one point, I stole a mobile machine gun, turning anyone who was in my sights into a loose chunk of meat. Even my own men who didn't listen. When I obviously was shooting in the direction of the enemy, they decided to walk in front of my gun, killing them instantly. The war was going great for me, but the effects of battle had caused irreversible neurological aneurysms for my allies, and this was seen everywhere on the front. Shortly after, I had to go pee. I hid the machine gun in a nearby house and did my deed close by, eagerly waiting to get back to the machine gun, but found it to be gone when I came back.
Sure, go completely right. Go.
Those dirty wardens stole the machine gun away from me and turned it on us. We had to get it back at any cost. We had a highly sophisticated plan to get past the gun's frontal armor by running directly at it while throwing grenades to kill the gunner behind the armor. This plan was going smoothly, with only 90% of all men who went before me died gruesomely in the process. I just pushed all the dead bodies away from the gunner's control and got hold of the machine gun again, continuing our push into the inner city. But wait, from the shadows of a nearby alley of a bakery, a new challenger approaches the field of battle. It was another machine gun on wheels that the wardens have kept secret until now. Me and my battle brothers knew that we had to stop this machine of death by any means, including using our own death machine in the process. Battle soon ensued as we had our sights pointed at each other. The Warden gunners were ferocious in how they fought us. They shot countless amounts of bullets at us, but ended up mostly shooting their own men in the process. The bullets that did reach us would just bounce off the frontal armor of the gun, leading to ricochet killing nearby friendly soldiers around me. But I did the same and shot countless rounds at their armor, doing the same effect. The zone of battle between the guns were so dangerous that all other soldiers who were not on the guns started to cower behind cover, as fear of being hit by a ricochet was extremely high. This lasted for hours as both guns were supplied with copious amounts of munitions. After some time, some brave men outmaneuvered the mobile gun and were able to kill the gunners from the sides. Then the men stole this new gun from the Wardens, giving us the fighting chance to push them out of the city for now. Some battles lasted for months in close quarters of the French cities. I mean, Warden cities. Numerous amounts of men died from food poisoning from the colonial rations given to them than the actual battle on the front lines, leading to a massive amount of cannibalism to take place after every battle. Airplane food, am I right? I ate 3 men during my time on the front lines, and quite frankly, they didn't put up much of a fight while I did it. After my short-term bloodlust, I had realized that I was actually back on the front lines fighting the war. It was intense, but I shortly became accustomed to all the bombs and bullets flying above me. I even got short-term PTSD from the time I spent on the front lines. I ultimately forgot that I was originally reviewing the game for content, and accidentally started role-playing a Somali con artist as a true person would do. So, I want to say I give this game an 8 severed toes out of 10. For its inert creativity in recreating World War I. I'm still angry at the fact that I still have to equip every item back whenever I have to respawn in the game, which makes me wish there was a class system that automatically equipped it on my character per my choosing. But besides that, it's a fun game to play with friends, especially if you want to make memories. Thank you again for watching the video. I spent too much time editing and planning this video. It was supposed to be released back in October of 2023, but I was extremely busy. Please check out my Twitch stream for more chaotic content. Well, I guess I have to end the video right now. Not really sure how I'm gonna do that. Oh, why are you still here? Why are you still watching? There's nothing at the end. I'm done. I've spent way too long editing this. You should be gone by now. Go. Leave. Oh, well, you think there's an Easter egg behind here? No, there's nothing. Now you're even more convinced. You're doubling down. Okay, fine. There is something here. You see, the secret is that